Hello. I would like to introduce myself. You will have a chance to after. I'll go first. My name is Lucy. I am a Leo and I'm a voice actor slash occasional audiobook narrator, and so I have a lot of time on my hands in between work where I spend a lot of my time reading. I don't really have any like close friends that read a lot that I talk to about the books that I read, but I find whenever I talk about a read to someone, I suddenly develop opinions and feelings about it that I didn't even realize I had. So I thought a book channel would actually be quite therapeutic. Anyway, it's your turn. You can introduce yourself to me now. Ah. Ew, why would you say that? 56 books is a lot of books to get through in one video. I'm not going to be talking in depth about every single book I read. I will, however, give you my ratings and thoughts if I have them. In terms of how I rate books out of 5, 1 star means I hated it, 2 stars means I didn't like it, 3 stars is kind of our middle ground and where a lot of my reads fall into. I didn't dislike it, I don't regret reading it, it was just, you know, a book I read. 4 stars means I really liked it and would recommend. 5 stars means it's gonna sit in this silly little squirrel noggin for many years to come, and I will talk about it with anyone who will let me. If I happen to rate a book lower than you rated it, I promise you it's not personal. Congratulations, you've just discovered personal preference. Books, as all other art, are subjective. I'm glad you're enjoying the books you're reading. Alright, at the beginning of March, we started with Acotar. This book is like the reason why I'm reading so much these days. Hand over heart, no questions asked. Acotar got me out of a reading slump. I haven't been this much of a bookworm, a freaking nerd, if you will, since I was a teenager. And to be honest, I thank Sarah J. Maas for that because yeah, another book could have done it, but hers got me right when I needed it, right in the way I needed it, and kept me going. So I will say that I gave the first one 4 stars, Mist and Fury 5 stars, absolutely loved that one. Aka War 4 stars, Frost and Starlight 3, and A Court of Silver Flames 3 because I don't like Nesta. I'm not gonna get into an argument about how that was meant to be like this big character arc for her and she's flawed too and we just don't know. I don't care. Sorry. She just acted so abhorrently in the first, you know, couple of books. I read the first 2 in the Housemaid series. When I finish one fantasy series and I want to start another one immediately, I force myself to have a palate cleanser, whether it's like mystery, thriller, romance, contemporary fiction, historical fiction, you know, something that is one and done in one book. I love me a palate cleanser. I gave both of the first 2 books 3 stars. They weren't bad though. Then I started Throne of Mother Flipping Glass, Tube Nation. Oh my god. I will admit the first 3 books in this series really kind of threw me and I almost DNF'd it at Heir of Fire, which is technically the 3rd, but I read that 4th because there's
a prequel called The Assassin's Blade that you're meant to read. The reading order is important though.
I remember I actually posted on the Reddit being like, hi guys, tell me it gets better, because I'm a completionist and I really like to finish series. I really hate stopping a series halfway through. Don't know why, but also I was enjoying Throne of Glass. It just like wasn't enjoyable to read up until a certain point. Once I got to Queen of Shadows, boom, 5 stars, absolutely loved that one. I did the tandem read with Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn and I could not recommend that more. I genuinely loved this series, particularly those 2 books because I was able to read them at the same time. If I didn't do the tandem read, don't think I would have gotten through Tower of Dawn. That shit was so boring on its own at times, but it is so integral to the storyline. Doing the tandem read allowed you to just kind of like, just when you were starting to fatigue with a storyline, you could swap over and get a different POV. 100% recommend the tandem read. Kingdom of Ash, that shit was like over 1,000 pages. I read that in a day and a half, 5 stars. Absolutely loved the Throne of Glass series, better than Acotar. That was the reason I started reading it, was because after I finished Acotar, Sarah J. Maas's fandom was like, you should read Throne of Glass. I kept seeing on TikTok, it's so much better. Can vouch. Also, I cannot believe she started writing that when she was like 16, and that is such a treat to be able to read an author's work as they're growing and coming into themselves. The writing style kind of matures and you get to watch her come into her own as a writer throughout the series. Really good, would recommend. Then I read Fourth Wing. Holy shit, look at that run. Acotar, Throne of Glass, Fourth Wing. Yeah, I liked Fourth Wing. I like her writing style. Yeah, it's a little bit juvenile at times, but I think the story in the end won me over. Iron Flame, however, I only gave 3 stars. That's the second one. I have already pre-ordered the 3rd. I'm really excited for it, but the second one, it didn't grab me as much. It felt like a filler book. Like I feel like it's setting up for the next one. Serpent and the Wings of Night, the first in the Crown Grounds of Nyaxia. Now, this one was on Kindle Unlimited, and so that was the main driving force for me to read it. It had really good reviews on Kindle, and then it was on Kindle Unlimited, aka free. And I was like, fuck yes, love me a free book. I was so into this book when I started it. I was texting my boyfriend like, I found a really good one, oh my god. Toward the end, the ending just kind of didn't really grab me. First one I gave 3 stars nonetheless. Tried the second one because I was like, I'm enjoying this story, let's see where it goes. Second one lost me so violently, it was as if it threw me off my own balcony. Gave that 2 stars. Very much didn't like the second one. If you've read Crowns of Nyaxia, let me know if this resonates with you. It felt like she was constantly trying to bring in like multiple fantasy tropes, but without really doing any work for it. I didn't really find much chemistry between her and Rain. All of a sudden they're like in a war, and I'm like, it just felt like she tried to bring in a lot of fantasy tropes that usually work in other books, except you've got to do work in order for them to work. Does that make sense? Get your ass up and work. She'd have the classic like, oh my god, look over there over the hill, it's the army that we didn't think was gonna come and they're here to save the day. Except like no work was done prior in the book for that to resonate emotionally whatsoever with me. Anyway, 2 stars. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, absolutely 5 stars. My Goodreads review was literally fucking exquisite. Absolutely loved that book. The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. My first Holly Jackson. I didn't read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder before this one. Yeah, it kept me going. I think I read this one in a day. Same as Yellowface. I think I read both of them in a day. The Cruel Prince trilogy by Holly Black. I gave the first one 3 stars, second one 4 stars, last one 4 stars. Looking back on it now, I don't really remember much about this plot. I remember the basics and it is kind of forgettable for me. I know people love that series and I did enjoy it, but you know, looking back on it now, only 2 months ago I read it and it feels like it's kind of a bit blurry for me. The trilogy was pretty fun though. I didn't dislike it. Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, 4 stars. This was a really sweet read. I really enjoyed this. I absolutely loved the POV from the octopus. I remember at the end in her acknowledgements and thanks, she actually combines it with somewhat of a bibliography, like telling you what she read in order to understand the mind of an octopus to be able to write the POV of an octopus. And I found myself adding some of those books to my TBR because octopuses are so cute. Why the fuck isn't it octopi? Are we ready for that discussion yet? Anyway, I really like octopuses after that. Damn, another good run. After that, I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, 5 stars. I loved that book. I grew up gaming a lot, and so this ticked so many boxes for me. I had a best friend that was a guy for like most of my upbringing. This book resonated with me in so many ways, and it was just so beautiful. And I remember one thing that I always take away from that is the one line, "There is nothing more intimate than play." And I genuinely want to get that tattooed on me in some way, shape or form. Like, that book was so special. Loved that one. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Gave this one 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the concept. I just like wasn't wrapped by it. The magic concept was cool. I just wasn't sucked into it. Like, I just didn't really find myself emotionally invested in any of the characters or the relationships. And so I was really just kind of reading for the storyline and seeing how like their mission would progress. I did enjoy it though. I gave it 3 stars. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I was hankering for an old western and I looked on Goodreads. I didn't feel like reading Cormac McCarthy. He's on the list. I'm gonna get to him soon. But I found this and a lot of the reviews got me over the line. They were like, I genuinely, like, this book changed my life. My best friend like bribed me. He said if I made it to page 100 and didn't keep reading, he would take me to a restaurant in New York and I could eat whatever I wanted on him. And of course he failed because the book is one of the most beautiful books I have and will ever read in my life. Everyone I talk to who has read this book absolutely loves it and feels the same way. It is just such a special read. Larry McMurtry knows his characters so well and he knows how to write them so well so that in turn you know them as well and you care about what's happening to them. It's one of those books where nothing needs to be happening for you to want to sit down and just hang out with the characters, you know, and just see what's going on for them. It was really special and I recommend that book to anyone. Oh. The Butterfly Garden by Hutchison. I gave this one 3 stars. Upper echelon of 3 stars, probably closer to a 3.5. The crime itself was intriguing and I enjoyed it, though I will say the ending confused the shit out of me. Like, something went straight over my squirrel brain. I missed it. I don't know what happened, but I think there was a plot twist at the end. Don't ask me, I didn't understand it. Something happened in the book and I remember sitting there being like, I feel like I should be gasping maybe oohing and eyeing, perhaps? But I just didn't get it, so I don't know. Oh Christ, on a bike. Then I started the Zodiac Academy. Just gonna speak a little quieter because this one's embarrassing. No. I'm really sorry to Carolyn Peckham and Susanne Valenti who authored these books together. There are 12 in the series and it's like a fantasy academy that runs around the Zodiac as its almighty kind of power. Like they say by the stars, they go by the stars. It was possibly one of the most juvenile things I have ever read. There was a lack of editor. I don't know where they went, if they are just permanently on holiday and never had a chance to actually read these books before it went to print. There were typos everywhere. They referred to the show Downton Abbey as Downtown Abbey. Do with that what you will. I had a giggle. The language of the characters was just unbelievably cringe, like to a point where I was physically cringing and just being like, oh. You might be sitting there going, Lucy, if that's the case, why did you read 6 of them? That is a very fair question. The story won me over. I did enjoy the storyline and I wanted to see what was going to happen to the characters. Alas, I've left them frozen in time and I don't know if I'll ever go back to it because it just got too much. Do you know what I mean? There was a straw and it broke the camel's back at some point there. Anyway, Mhairi, I keep forgetting how to say her name, mcfarlane. I read her book last night, actually on a recommendation from Hayley Pham, who was on a recommendation from Emily Henry. I'm not friends with either of these people. I just watched Hayley's YouTube video and thought the book sounded nice. Tackles the idea of grief and friendship and loss and things like that. It was good though, 4 stars. The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, 4 stars, beautiful read. I'm always really into World War II, historical fiction in general. I really enjoy it, but particularly when it's got something to do with the Holocaust and things like that. Call it morbid curiosity. Being a white female in Australia, I've never had to deal with any kind of real hardship, and I think that's where my curiosity comes from. I'm like, I want to understand what actually happened for these people because I feel like almost not guilty, but like I just feel like I'm living a completely different life over here. So I really enjoy historical fiction. Next up was In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I gave this one 4 stars. I think I would have given this one 5 stars, but I think this one falls victim to me having read a lot of other books that were inspired by it, so I'm used to the trope. If you've never read In Cold Blood before, what I mean is that it pioneered the idea of using fiction to tell the story of a true crime. Unfortunately, I've just read a lot in that genre that now that I've read the original, I'm like, if I had read that, you know, when it came out and when it was still pioneered, this would probably be an easy 5 stars. But unfortunately, I've read too many books that follow its structure that it was only a 4 star for me, but I still really enjoyed it. Also, I got through half of the book before I realized it was a true story. That really gave me a kick. Next up was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I don't have a rating for this still, but I'm thinking it sits at 4-ish. I can never really get my thoughts around it because it's been accused of being quite autobiographical, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that fiction comes from non-fiction. Like, you gotta write what you know. What I did love about this book was Sylvia Plath's ability to write in a style that made you go along with everything she was doing and it make perfect sense until you take a step back and go, oh, she's mad. Oh, she's going insane. And that's basically what the book is. You're in the POV of a young woman who slowly starts to lose it. Yeah, I would recommend it though. Then I went on a little bit of an Emily Henry spree. I read Happy Place and Funny Story. Happy Place I gave 5 stars. I really liked that book. I completely understand the hype. That was cozy and I really enjoyed it. Funny Story I only gave 3. Didn't quite hit the mark for me personally. It fell a little bit flat toward the end. The Teacher, another Freida McFadden, gave this one 3 stars. Again, nothing crazy. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This one broke my heart a little bit. I DNF'd it at 50%. I was so excited to read this book. I bought it on my Kindle. It had been sitting there for weeks. I tried to read it one day and went, oh no, like I don't really feel like this right now. Read other books. Came back to it, sat down and I was like, frick yeah. I'm ready to read Powerless. I didn't like it. It felt like a Hunger Games cross Resand fanfic. And I just felt like I had seen too many of the tropes that were used to the point where, unfortunately, this book just didn't sparkle for me, if that makes sense. I got up to like when they were in the games and I basically went, oh really? Like, is this what we're doing? So yeah, I did rate that one 2 stars, but I am somewhat against rating a book you haven't finished. I don't think it's fair. So I might take that rating off, to be honest. I don't know. I did DNF it though, and that really pained me because I'm a bit of a completionist. I hate to stop reading a story before it's finished. Don't bring up Zodiac Academy. That's a touchy subject. 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Gave this one 4 stars. Really liked it. Loved her magical realism. I really like her concepts. I really enjoy her writing style. Yeah, 4 stars. Enjoyed that one. The Best of Friends by Lucinda Berry. Yeah, 3 stars. Nothing crazy. I enjoyed it. This one felt like one of those books that you like pick up at an airport and you read on a holiday and just, yeah, it was nothing crazy for me. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. 5 stars. Absolutely loved this book. I was laughing out loud reading this book. I learnt stuff. I learnt how to properly cook a steak. I thought it was a really beautiful novel about interpersonal relationships and obviously feminism as a concept and how awful women are just constantly treated still. It is always terrifying to me to know that like the 50s and 60s weren't that long ago. Like the way women have only just started to come into society as independent beings and being respected as such, and we're still not quite there. So on a similar token, The Women by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction about nurses in the Vietnam War. 4 stars. God, this book was so beautiful. Kristen Hanna can write. Like she can really write, and I really want to read her other books. I know she's got a couple of really popular ones, but having started with this one, like my hopes are high. I really enjoy her writing style. Then I read The Hobbit and all 3 Lord of the Rings. I talk about them in this video. Beach Read by Emily Henry. Gave this one 4 stars. The next 4 books I'm about to talk about were in the 24-hour challenge that I did this week. So if you want to watch me go absolutely loopy reading this over 24 hours straight, go and watch that video. I'm not going to go through my thoughts about them in depth because I definitely did in that video. What I will tell you though is that The Exorcist got a 4, The Final Empire, Mistborn got a 4, Novel Love Story got a 2.5, and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder got a 4. It was a very successful reading challenge. And right now I am reading The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. It is the 2nd in the Mistborn series. I am absolutely loving it. I went feral last night reading it. I'm excited to keep going. So please give me recommendations. If you found you had similar ratings to me for some of the books, if we've read like similar stuff, if I was to give you my top 3 out of all of the books I just listed as my recommendations, number 1 would have to be Lonesome Dove. I recommend that book to absolutely anyone. It is a really special book and will stay with me for the rest of my life. Yellowface I really enjoyed and I'm always recommending to people. And Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. If you have ever grown up with video games or you play video games, you will particularly like this, but I don't think that you necessarily have to have a background in video gaming in order to enjoy it. Man, that book is so special, and it is a book about love and not necessarily in a romantic sense. It is just beautiful. Chef's kiss. Anyway, that is all she wrote for this video. I hope that this video gives you a better idea on whether or not you and I would get along in terms of book preference. Whenever I'm searching for booktubers and like someone to subscribe to, I will always go to a video like this to get a general overview of all the books that they've recently read that I may have read also, and I can compare our ratings to see if we have a similar taste in books. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy your morning, afternoon / evening. Please circle whichever applies, and I'll see you guys next time.